talk to you about how to have an effective career mindset. Here we go.
Great. Are we ready, Emily? We're all set? Great. Are we ready, Emily? We're all set?
Yep.
My screen in just a couple of seconds, if you don't already. With the present ahead is always easier to look at as well than just slides. The goal is to make this fun and interesting for you as well and relevant. So one of the things I'd like you to do as you're about career mindset, why it's important, and how to maintain that proper mindset and get to that for you as I'm speaking. And I'd love for you to have a conversation a little bit more live on Facebook on my Making a Living with Maggie Mistal page after this, should you have questions. And I'll remind you about that at the end. But I do want to give you a chance to think about this for yourselves. And that's what's most important. You make this live and make this real. Okay, so Villanova Alumni Association, I'm always happy to support their efforts, as they get that it's the success of each of us as individuals is not just about what we do, but also about who we are and the presence that we bring. And I think Villanova in general, engenders that in all of us. And it's something we can be proud of. So, so mindset is something we learn, perhaps though by default, because oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I didn't really have classes on career mindset or classes to help me really a mini introduction to how you can have the proper mindset and why that's of help. So here's our agenda. First of all, I want to focus on thoughts and how they help brains have, and when used properly, they can really help us move forward. But sometimes, if not, if left to their own devices or left to the media or other things in our own environment, sometimes we can get bogged down in a really negative place. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Also, it's important that you recognize how powerful when you change your mind, when you stop thinking negative thoughts or stop allowing your brain to be buffeted by the negative, that you actually can have where you want to be right now. If you're not as successful or as happy or as fulfilled, or if you don't have the work-life balance you want, if you're not making as much as you thought you should. All of these outcomes that we want can actually be had. We just have to have the right mindset to achieve those. I'm going to share some examples that you can take away from this webinar today, because you are going to spend an hour with me, and I want you to get some real value out of that. So we're going to talk about the 5 keys to really maintaining the proper mindset so that you can sustain success and career happiness for yourself. That this isn't just a one-time event. This webinar is a nice thought, and that's great, Maggie, but this actually becomes part of your daily activity and how you live your life. Still small feat in 1 hour, but I think we'll get there. All right, great. So talking about thoughts and how they affect us. This is an interesting statistics principles by Jack Canfield. It's actually research put together in one place, and I refer to it quite often. It's even part of the foundation that I use for a mastermind class, career coaching class that I do for people. And here's something that Einstein said. And here it is. According to research, the average person talks to him or herself about 50,000 times a day. And unfortunately, most of that is negative. Now, 50,000 times, when I first read that statistic, I found it pretty surprising. I know I've had negative thoughts and concerns and issues, but 50,000 times a day really surprised me. And the interesting thing is, that's more than I anticipated, which also points to the power of how much our brains affect what we do. So the key, though, here is you can manage these thoughts, and that it's not necessarily just an inherent part of your nature. It's not like you're just inherently negative, because we're having these negative thoughts. It's a couple of things. I mean, part of it is, our own survival instinct. We can have some negative thoughts about a new environment related to that fear, but it's beyond that, right? It's aware of those, whether it's in the words we use or the words that are used around us or in the media and how stories are presented. So what's fascinating is that we can actually manage this mental state and use these 50,000 thoughts a day to our own advantage, so that we're using this energy to move forward in a direction that we can really feel great about. But what are these negative thoughts that we're talking about here? What are the types that are really 50,000 times a day? I mean, that sounds ridiculous, Maggie. Well, here are some of the negative thoughts myself. I don't know about any of you, but sometimes you can have a whole day's worth of work, or whatever it happens to be. If you're active in your community, not working, even though 90% of things may be going really well, but people say, hey, how are you? You may not focus on the best things. You may think, well, everything's great, but. And that but can really negate the positive thoughts in our minds. Always being afraid of the worst case scenario. Now, again, this goes back to that fear component that I talked about that's built into our human biology. Unfortunately, when it can run rampant, though, almost like a train going off the tracks, right? Your brain works on these scenarios of horrible things that could happen, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's whatever, health. I mean, it's amazing. I have some clients, and we talk not only about career, but sometimes health topics come up and other things, or finances. And this worst case scenario thinking can really bog them down in a place of, was that, a client was looking to change careers, but she's like, but if I do, what if I don't get another job the way I want to? And then next thing you know, I'll lose my house and I'll be a bag lady. And I'm like, okay, well, you jump into the bag lady thinking, although I guess it's possible, it's not from taking steps that are smart. Even though it's a slim chance, it stops us from moving forward. Chastising yourself. Anybody do this one? Yeah, I can tell you. I guess I'm relating to all these. Hopefully you're not. Things you did do or didn't do well enough. How about that? So because once you say something on live radio, you can't get it back, right? It's water under the bridge, as they say. And it took me a long time to get over the fact that I wasn't necessarily going to say everything perfectly every time, once a week, with some things that I didn't say the way I wanted to, or that I wish I had said better, or if I listened to my old shows, or the same thing for you. If you kind of watch yourself, if you're presenting, or if you get to do a mock interview, if you're interviewing, there's things that we may not do perfectly every time. But chastising yourself after the fact for those things doesn't necessarily help you make them better. There's more productive ways to deal with that. Taking everything personally. Boy, do I have an example of this one. And it just came, for example. So I have a client who I just started working with, and we're about a month into our sessions. We're talking like every 2 weeks or so. And what she shared with me was that she's been a successful person at all of her career, and she's actually in this really straight, or she even was in a new job because of him, working with him. And she said what was amazing is she said, all of a sudden he just wants to see everything I send out. He wants me to have everything go through him, and I talked to the other direct reports that he has, and that's not the case with them. And she's really doesn't trust me anymore, that I'm doing a bad job. So she talked about all the different things she's been doing in the past month to demonstrate to him that she doesn't know what she's doing, and all the extra effort she's putting in to show that there's good reasons for what she's doing. And so this was really playing on her as a regular basis, really bringing her down. For a fact, he thinks she's not doing a good job. Did he actually say that to you? She said, well, no, it's my feeling though because of this behavior. And so what if we checked it out? What if you talked to him about it? What if the next time you get me to be checking everything I'm doing and I really don't understand what's going on? And she did. She had that conversation. She was shocked because it has nothing to do with her performance. He said she's doing everything exactly the way he wants her to. It's not her. He's trying to manage the people who receive the information from her and manage, keep them from going down the wrong path or thinking, interpreting the data she's putting out there the wrong way. So she didn't know. So here she's spending all this time, all this energy affecting her performance. And actually, the fact that we're even coaching and I'm working with her is because of her performance, right? If she hadn't, but after this conversation, she was lighter. She's like, oh, Maggie, I realize it's not me, and I don't have to take it personally. And you know what? There might be ways I can help him do what he's trying to do. And it can be a really big one. And here's one more. Not if we didn't have enough negative thinking, but this is just to double check your own thoughts. Using always and never statements. Oh, I always screw this up, or I never get to go. I'm always the last one to get considered the best opportunities on the team. We make these always, and thing always happens. I never dreamed of a radio show at one point. I thought, oh, I'll never have that happen. These things can happen, and these never statements are not true. They're feelings that actually hold us back. So there's some negative thinking because maybe you did. And you can actually, you'll see later, we're going to, as one of the next steps from today's webinar, types of things you're doing that may be sabotaging you. I'd like to be positive. That's bringing me down. Not this way. And this is not just me talking. This is biology in our brains. It affects what we say and how we act, right? So talented, I'm successful, I'm really good at what I do, things differently. And if, but say when. So say, well, if I get to change careers, or if this opportunity comes through for me, or if this person wants to speak with me. No, I say when this person speaks with you, when the opportunity comes through. When you get it and you're positive, you're going to say things differently and you're going to act differently. And you may have noticed this, that we actually get what we focus on. And this is brain research at play. I learned that our brains are really masters of efficiency. Okay, so what does that mean? Not every day, right? Our brains are we're trying to do. So if our brains are doing this, our brains are getting that information from how we can be more positive, to focus on what will happen and how you're excited that that's coming and how you have a vision for it and you can see yourself. Chances of finding those opportunities. It's the career magic, I call it, or career coincidences that I've been podcasting about for his whole career. But he has this passion for animals, and he's been a dog trainer on the side, combining his interests in pets and animals with his current set of talents and experience. And he's like, well, I never thought I could do that. But we just started brainstorming different career possibilities. The way I've been thinking, I thought I had to do all that on the side, that now that you've added them together, he's like, this is going to take some time to sink in. So which he has been on consistently. This wasn't a new thing. He went on LinkedIn, and do you know, a job popped up at a local veterinary hospital, a very big one, actually a national one, where he could talk to them about being a process consultant, or at least what his skills, there was a job posting that his skills were a match for. It was very amazing. And he said, wow, it was like magic. It was the positive thoughts, right? Channeling the right information, getting his brain to focus on the right things. So if you want to get something different, you got to start. Dyer, who's one of my favorites, uses called believing is seen. Believing is seen. You've got to believe it first, then you'll start to see it. the catalyst is really you. Great. All right, so hopefully this is resonating with you and you're having fun, thinking more positive thoughts now. I want to go forward here with the next slide, I think. There we go. All right, now this is one of my favorite stories. So I've been talking about how positive thoughts can help, and I share some 2008 Olympics, which I know was a few years ago now, but I'm hopeful that this story, because it's an all-time favorite among the greatest game savers and game changers of all times in the Olympics. It's the story of Jason Lee, still does today. Jason actually from the sport at the right, but with the last leg of the men's relay, the 4x100 relay, and the U.S. was not favored to win. And in fact, though, the beauty of it went if he was going to break the record for the most gold medals and win the 8 that he needed. So here comes Jason, last leg of this relay. The U.S. is behind. He actually thought he screwed up and left too early and was going to disqualify the whole team. He's like, that was the first part of my mindset, where all of a sudden I was focused on disqualification. He said, I got to push that out of my mind. Then he knows that the French are ahead. And actually, for the same swim set, anyway, his mindset said, there you see it right there, his first negative thought, I'll never catch him. Like, I'll never catch him. And Jason Lezak, if you studied his career before that, was not so stellar. He was good, but he was never great. So here's his mindset, I'll never catch the water. But he said, well, I could change. He's like, this is ridiculous, or that's ridiculous. This is the Olympics. Anything can happen. And he changed his own mind in the moment. And he said later he was just tired of losing. And if you remember the outcome, what happened? What literally happened was that after that, Jason had a rush of adrenaline at the end of the race. Usually happen that way. Doesn't usually happen for any other swimmers, usually fading at the end. He got a burst of adrenaline, and you can see it in the video. I actually linked to a Sports Illustrated article there where you can get back to the video. But he in that same race than he had ever done in his career before. So he had this amazing moment with the power of changing your mind. There's the power of what can happen when you see the possibility, energy within you that you don't even know you have. Jason didn't know he had it. He'd never used it before, but there it was when he needed it. When he believed it, it happened. He saw it. And the U.S. won. And if you watch the video for that, it will give you chills. I'm getting chills just talking about it. And why do I share this story? Well, yeah, okay, so we're not all Olympic athletes listening to this, but you don't have to be. You're a human being, just like Jason. And you can tap into that same power by just changing your mind. You can turn around negative thoughts that you're having right now about your career. In fact, here's some steps that we can talk about miraculous wins in your career. The first is to prepare for a positive outcome, right? Rather than tempering it and saying, well, I don't know if this is really going to work, or, for other people, you prepare for a positive outcome. You almost expect things to work out. Not almost, you do. You expect a positive outcome. And so whatever is challenging you right now, I'd like you to stop seeing it as an insurmountable challenge. I can't tell you the number of times clients have told me that, Maggie, this is insurmountable. I say, okay, play along with me and let's make sure, because I have a feeling it's not. And what I have found, and I've been coaching for over 10 years, is that no problem is insurmountable. No relationship is insurmountable. If you've had a negative relationship with a colleague or a boss, if it's when you tried everything, try changing your mindset, because that's what's changed for my life. I can share a quick example where I said I was on radio, Sirius XM, for 7 years. Well, what I didn't share was that partway through that, about 3 years in, taking off the channel, I was on the Martha Stewart channel, and I was still a contributor, and I was still, on air each week, and see if we can come up with a better way. We're going to fold you and everybody else into these other shows. And I'll tell you, it was a complete blow to my mindset, my my confidence. I started telling myself negative things about my abilities as a radio host, on a rabbit hole, negative path. I said, wait a minute. Let me just calm down here for a second. Maybe there's a positive here. Maybe there's some good reason why this happened. And let me assume there is, right? Let me assume there's a really good reason why I'm having career talk with Maggie. And although that was good, it didn't really fit with the Martha Stewart brand. That was the channel I was on. So I changed it to Making a Living to fit in with the Martha Stewart Living brand, which was a better name. And it was a better fit for the show with the channel. I didn't launch the show right away, but I had those segments. I even started making my segments Making a Living. Just re-confidence back, and I stopped taking it so personally, because I even talked to the head of radio about my performance, and she said, no, it had nothing to do with you. And I got that same boost. I said, all right, well, I'm going to make on those segments. And within less than a year, my show was asked to come back on. I was asked to come back by this channel. I want you to have a show. I'm excited. And she's still in radio in a really high-level position at Sirius XM. And I'm so in my relationship with her, and gave me my show back. So even a chance to believe it's possible. Give yourself a chance to see how it could work, or why this hiccup, this issue, is actually a blessing in disguise, helping you make whatever you're trying to do better. You can start to plan out steps on what you need to do to win. Jason, that's ridiculous. This is the Olympic, a life-changing moment for him, and everyone got to work just a little bit more. We'll talk to mastering and effect optimism, or any other spiritual practice. So how do you do automatic negative, majority of which are negative? You want to get a handle on what those are. So how do you do that? Well, one of the best things you can do, and this is actually an exercise I learned out of Success Principles that I want to share, is that you track your thoughts. Right? Track your thoughts. You can use your iPhone and a notepad on there. You can use a file on your desktop. You can use a notepad. It doesn't matter. But for 2 days during the week, okay, and 1 weekend day, track your thoughts. Track the thoughts that go through your mind for 2 days during the week, so you want 2 work days and 1 weekend day. And just that exercise alone will be mind-boggling to you. And I've had my mastermind groups do this, and what's amazing, and I've done it for myself, is it enlightens you about the tape and the fears that it plays on, about the things you're insecure about, right? And again, are those things inherently bad? No, they can be clues. They can be constructive criticism to show you where you need to get better, where you're not focusing enough time, or where you're not putting enough energy because you have other priorities. Write them down, keep a journal, write them somewhere where you're going to, where only you need to see them, nobody else needs to see them. Because then the next step, as you heard earlier, is to check, is this a fact or a feeling? Because what we're doing with those 50,000 self-talk comments a day is we're acting on them as if they're fact. Okay, we're acting on the fact that she thought her boss lost confidence in her, or I was acting on the fact that I wasn't a good radio host, right? Those weren't facts. Those are feelings. And they were wrong, and they were damaging. And so if you can recognize the feelings that you're having, that's a feeling, that's what Jason said. He's like, I can't win. Well, wait a minute. I said, that's ridiculous. I can win. It's just a feeling. That's not a fact. He changed the outcome. Recognize the feelings that are getting in the way that aren't true. Now, number 2, look for ways to conquer your fears. Wow, is this a powerful one? It's a few short words there, but it's a big one. So fears. I don't think there's a big surprise there. This isn't a therapy, session, and so we don't have to go into, your past lives. But it's important to conquer your fears. Another great guru, he says, everything you want is just outside your comfort zone, right? So if you're feeling your team, or by doing a bigger job, I'll have to give up on that, that you won't be able to do it, that you won't be able to handle it. And that's not truth. It's, as I do the very things that I'm afraid of doing, I'm not afraid of them anymore. And like The Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, unfortunately she recently passed away, but Kill the Fear and Do It Anyway is a tremendous resource. I have it on audio, and I listen to it anytime I'm stopping myself from doing something I really want to do. And one more quick example, I actually have done a cabaret show here in New York City, just around the corner from my apartment. I live in the Broadway district, the theater district. There's an off-Broadway cabaret place, very well known, called Don't Tell Mama. But I thought, you know what? I'm coaching everybody else to follow their dreams. I've always wanted to sing on stage. I'd love to make that happen. And it was a big-time fear. It's more fearful for me to get up on stage and sing than it is to talk on CNN, than it is to talk on the Today Show. I'll talk to anybody about anything, but get me to sing, and it's like I'm bearing my soul, right? Or I'm not good enough, or all the fears really come to the surface. But you know what? I worked with her, and then we created a show called Following Your Dreams, where I encouraged people. I picked positive songs that talked about following your dreams and your passions, and I had an MC who halfway through the show helped facilitate people through and change their careers out of that. I did 3 shows, 1 for charity and 2 here at Don't Tell Mama, and it was wonderful to see other people get stretched, because stretching themselves. Some even took the mic from me, and they're afraid. So that's a really powerful one if you want to change your life and others. The third one, create, find, and read mindset reminders every day. These are those, Maggie. Well, I'm going to share with you some real-life examples that I've used. I'm going to jump ahead here for a second. Don't look. Okay, hold on. There we go. All right. Success comes first in your mind. This is a success poem, and I actually on the back. And it was something that I could hang, and it said success at the top, and then had about believing in yourself, believing that you can, and doing your best, and feeling your best, and thinking your best. And you know what? The reason why I share this with you is because there was, it came with me when I first moved, into my own apartment. It came all the way to New York City with me, gosh, this was probably 15 years later, my hair, where I was almost every day. I read it every day, right? But basically that's the point. It was in a place where I read it every single day. And I didn't really make it a point to, I just happened to read it until a year later when I was getting my review. I was at Arthur Anderson at the time in a consulting job. I hit every goal that they had set for me that year and that I had helped set for myself. And there were many other things that had happened, but everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. And they said, my boss said she had never seen anything like that before in her life. And I hadn't. Not like I don't like goals, I do, but what was amazing to me is I hadn't been this overachiever, stressed out, looking to achieve all my goals, forcing everything to happen. I just lived my life according to this success principle. Easy. Like, I mean, I didn't mean that, I didn't put effort in, but I just put effort in the right place. And I put effort in effortless, but it was struggle-free. So I wanted to share this with you, and you'll get a copy of this in PDF form, so you can. And if you want, I think mine came from Blue Mountain, which is a great stationery company with some really inspirational stuff. Book, and you can follow him there too, as I now do. But I love this one because it's the success indicator. And you see, it talks about the things successful people do. What do? They have a sense of gratitude. They give other people credit. They share information. They exude joy. They embrace change. They keep not only a to-do list, focusing on who they are and who they want to be. They keep a journal. They want others to succeed. I mean, you just can see all the things. And even the bottom part there, operate, bottom right says operate from a transformational perspective. right? That's mindset. That's what they're saying. That's a positive mindset. Unsuccessful people, you see enough by the picture there. Cool. Never set goals, exude anger, fear change, right? It's all these negative things that were put in the photo there, or the picture, the illustration. So I'm actually going to get the wall-size version of this, and you might want to as well, but I wanted you to see those. All right, now let's just finish off the 5 from others, not criticism, as we said. That's an interesting one, because I know people who say, well, I can't find a mentor, or I don't know to look for a mentor, or do I need a mentor, or who can play this role for me, and then not. My husband or wife isn't supportive, or my parents aren't supportive of me becoming a career coach. They thought, why would you ever leave, an Arthur Anderson type job? Why would you do that? And I owned my apartment at the time, which you're seeing behind me. And they said, well, basically what they were saying is we don't want to pay your bills. And when people around you aren't supportive, it's usually because of something they're afraid of, not because of you. So what you want to do in that case is, and I'm working with a client on this right now, is you want to make new friends, right? You want to go to new places and meet new people. And her family isn't her place of support. They kind of see her in a certain way. She's the youngest of the family, and they don't really see her accomplishing much. And they kind of talk that way to her, not in a mean way, but just in a, well, I guess it turns out to feel mean. But anyway, what we talked about with her, she loves running. And runners are really positive people usually. I have some clients who are runners who've done tons of marathons, and they're usually really positive. And the running is what helps them even stay even more in that positive mindset. So we talked about her joining a running group and making more friends that way, finding her people, finding those positive people. And I think I lost my screen here. There we go. People in the Villanova Alumni Network is a great place if you need to branch out in new ways. I've met amazing people through the Alumni Network. In fact, my husband is one, and he's definitely someone who supports me. One of the most important, because I often find that we focus on what's not working. It's because we're not celebrating our wins enough. We're not celebrating the big ones. We're not celebrating the small ones. We're kind of just jumping on to the next to-do. And it's really damaging, because when it comes to careers and it comes to sustain, and it's not like, let me just get through, this next big project, and then I'll just jump on the next big project. You're not going to have motivation. You need to boost yourself. You need to acknowledge what you've accomplished. And actually, it took me out to a fabulous lunch in Manhattan with champagne and everything. And I probably would have been like, oh, no big deal. Let's not worry about it. But then I said exactly, an important moment that I do want to savor, and I want to feel this energy and this positivity and take it forward with me. And that's what celebrating does. Now, you don't have to celebrate being on CNN. You can celebrate making a phone call, right? Maybe there's a tough phone call you need to make. Or tough. You still think I'm doing a good job? Because that was a very difficult conversation for her. So celebrate. Mark these important things that you're doing as accomplishments, because they are. And you're not going to rest on your laurels when you celebrate. You're going to get more motivation to do more going forward. So these are all the really key important things for mindset. All right, dominate your life. And that's a photo I actually recently took in a beautiful place called the Florida Keys, if you haven't been. But here it is. It's all about the path from Henry David Thoreau, who knows a little bit about nature. He says, we'll not make a pathway in the mind. To make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate, creating the kind of career and life that you want. And I'm excited for your questions and comments on the page after this. If you don't get a chance now to ask your questions, or if you are listening to this in a recording, you can always contact me there. I want to thank you all for listening and turn it back over to Emily for any questions.
Great. So if anyone has any questions, you can type them at the bottom of your toolbar. Then I will read them out loud, and then Maggie will be able to answer them for you. So I'll give you guys, I actually have one for Maggie, myself. I graduated with the class of 2012, and now I'm a grad student, but a lot of my friends are still on job search a year later. And a couple of my friends are still kind of struggling with keeping effective getting a job. So I was wondering what advice you would give to young alums who still don't have a job.
Yeah, basically, I just started working with a young alum. Graduated probably about 2 years ago. Only if you can mute your side, sorry. One of the things I'm really excited about is that the attitude, the mindset I'm already hearing about money, right? Money's not the major reason to get a job. And believe me, for me it was. I was an accounting major, nothing personal to accountants, but it wasn't the right match for me, but it was a paycheck. And that's all that mattered to me at that age. It was a mistake. Obviously, I needed to change careers to what I do today. But anyway, I'm excited because you guys already have a really positive mindset when it comes to taking into account all the elements of your ideal career, right? You don't just want any job. You want to find the right job. And I think that's why I'm finding the younger people that I'm coaching are, quote-unquote, gentlemen that I'm working with, basically walked away from a job because he said it was weighing on him and the mindset was so terrible that he couldn't put up with it anymore. He didn't want to support it. He didn't want to use his energy. So I would say, for the people who are struggling, to recognize that you may be struggling because you have higher standards, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what you can do to get over that or to help make this easier is to be more clear about what you'd love to see happen, right? Share with people your vision. even if you're not sure about everything that you want out of your first job, even if you just say, you know what, I really see myself working around inspired people, who are creative. And to me, as long as I have that, I'm really excited. If you just focus in on the things that you know that you do want, that you'd be excited to have, and share them with everybody you know, whether it's other alums or graduates, whether it's alumni, whether it's people in your family, whether it's people you meet at networking events, if you just share what you're excited about and what you're looking forward to seeing in your career for that first step, it'll change. It'll change because people will start to see it for you too, recruiting force for you. So if people are struggling to get a job, I say don't take it all personally and think it's all you. There actually can be some real positives because it means you're going after something you want, not just something you want.
Great, thank you. I'll spread that around. We have a question from Ankit. Yes, being a positive mindset and taking actions on what needs to be done is great, but how do you do a realistic check on whether this is actually possible, or is this just a negative thought?
The last one. Say that one absolutely. Can you say that again?
Yes. So Ankit asks, being in a positive mindset and taking actions upon what needs to be done is great, but how do you check on whether this is actually positive or if that in itself is a negative thought?
Or I can't really hear the question. I heard negative mindset. Let me see if I can hear it.
Sure, and if not, maybe Maggie, you might be able to see it too in the questions. But we'll see. So being a positive mindset and taking action on what needs to be done is great, but how do you realistically check on actually positive, or is it a negative thought?
Positive? How do you realistically try to be positive?
Like check on whether or not you're positive or not, or if that's negative.
Oh, thank you. Right. How do you know or check if you're positive? Well, I think it goes back to if you're getting the outcomes you want. Are you happy with what you're getting? Are you happy? Period. Like, are you excited about going to work every day? Do you get the project about going to work every day? Do you guys recognize for the work that you're putting in? Do you feel rewarded? Do you get to work with the location that inspires you? Well, a lot of people take the things that I'm talking about as luxury. Like, oh, Maggie, I'm just talking about a job. You want me to work in a corner office. Basically, what I like to tell people is start to expect more. Start to raise your standards. Maybe you're not talking negatively. I'll just go forward to this. Here, whoops, 1 second. Okay, so maybe on the left-hand side, you're not, gosh, holding a grudge. A person's like got a club. It's a bit extreme. So maybe you're not violently angry or taking it out on people. But does that mean you're happy? Are you really happy? A lot of people have settled for this mediocre in between. I know it was a great company, but it wasn't the best company for me because after a while, I didn't really enjoy the projects. And I love the people, but other than that, I really didn't want to travel to where they sent me. And I really didn't, they couldn't pay me enough to do the job because I just hated it so much. Like I just project in Philadelphia, I wanted to get off because I moved to New York. And I just moved from Philly, and they put me back on a project in Philadelphia. And I was so annoyed that I just like, whatever, I didn't do a good job. And you know what? My performance suffered. Right? So it comes back to the outcomes you're getting. If you want to measure your positivity, if you want to measure your, and it's not even just positivity, if you want to measure your mindset and see where you stand, the question is, are you a success? If you're not there yet, or if you're like, well, it's okay, then you're not there yet because you deserve it. And not only do you deserve it, the world, we need every person I've talked to that I've career coached or I've talked to on radio, when I say, what do you really want to do? They tell me, well, this is crazy, but I remember one woman saying, I want to coach parents to spend more time with their kids, notice the difference or whatever. And she was so passionate. I said, great, let's make this, a side business that you go after because guess what? Is the world going to be a better place if more parents spend time with their kids in a way? So if there's something within you that you're thinking, I'd love to do this, but I don't know if it's possible, let go of the, I don't know if it's possible. Let go of that mindset. Say, I'd love to do this. And just let go of the rest. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about positive mindset. It's not just a mindset. This is an attitude that you carry with you that changes the way you live your life. Small change.
All right, so we have another question from Christina, and she says, you are juggling raising your son and managing your career. What are your thoughts on all the debate that has been in the media about leaning in and trying to balance work-life?
Advice, and actually I was on the Today Show recently with the person who gave me the advice. Her name is Callie Yost, and her concept is not work-life balance, but work-life fit, F-I-T, work-life fit. And to me, that's what's important. And I do think some of the lean in encourages that, actually. But basically, at the end of the day, in your career, what I've learned is, early on, my 20s, even in my 30s, I actually had Mercer in my late 30s, I was career focused on my boyfriend, now husband, but even so, we were kind of on parallel paths, and he was pursuing his career goals and I was pursuing mine. And there wasn't, my work-life fit at that point was pretty heavy on the work side. And I worked 10-hour days, 5 days a week, and it wasn't a big deal. You know, in fact, that's how I built my business. I had a day job at Martha Stewart from 9 to 5, and then I'd build my business in the after hour, a master's, or going after a master's in organizational psychology. So like at that time of my life, you know, you could say, wow, you know, you had no work-life balance. I'm like, no, I had work-life fit though for what made sense for me at that time. I think it was important to be, I can spend time with Mercer and not feel as if, you know, I'm taken away from my business. My business is where it needs to be, and I know how to maintain it, and I know how to, I know what I need to do to serve the clients and to get new clients and be of service here on, you know, on the webinars. I don't need to take on a huge new project or go back to school or do something hugely different at this stage. For me to work-life fit now, I'm probably working more like half-time than I am. Definitely compared to when I worked at Martha Stewart and I was building a business on the side. This is way half. You've got to define for yourself the fit that works for you. What's the work-life fit? And that could change at the different stages of your career, because as Mercer gets older and he's in school, I'll have more time and I'll put more time into work, and maybe I will have some new projects. I'm not going to wait necessarily until he's 5 to do that, but I'm going to wait till I feel comfortable to spend that kind of work time. So I think what I like about what she's saying is you should define it for yourself, not let other people define it for you. Sorry, that was funny. But that, you know, that fit is so important, and it's not so much about balance 50-50. It's about whatever makes sense for you. And again, Callie Yost, Y-O-S-T, is who I learned that from. She's got a work-life fit blog that I encourage you to check out. And even if you go to my website, to my blog at MaggieMistal.com, you'll see a link to the whole idea of work-life fit is important too. Great question. Great question.
And kind of, we have one more question, kind of going off of that. Mary Jennifer writes, do you have any recommendations for trying staying positive while being overwhelmed with challenges in your job and personal life so self-care isn't sacrificed?
Yes. Before I had my son. When you have a little one, you're like, haircut, who needs that? No, it's important. So probably the best advice, again, you know, I'm as much a student as I am a teacher. And I'm always taking notes. I'm always taking the advice that I give, at least doing my darndest. But when it comes to self-care, here's what it is. The world values you as much as you value yourself, okay? With even my fees and things like that. I learned this from a lot of people who have been successful. In my radio show, I interviewed them, and I'd ask them the questions I had. And I'd say, you know, how do you get confident about higher fees? Or how do you, not even just raising your rates, but how do you get confident charging people for your time? You know, and they were saying, Maggie, the more you charge someone, the more they value what you're doing. Now, you have to deliver value. Don't get me wrong, right? Yeah, but when you're in your passion and your purpose, you are. It's just you have to value yourself first before other people will value you, is basically what they're saying. Well, basically tells the world you're not valuing yourself, okay? If you don't take the time to, I don't know, get the haircut you need, or you don't have time to, I don't know, put on makeup if you're a woman, or get new clothes and you're wearing the same outfits over and over again, or same tattered idea, or you don't have a style. You know, I actually love working with stylists. In fact, I'm getting a style consultation because I'm now a mom and I have a, you know, it's kind of a new style to me. You know, I think it's important. I think you need to value yourself first. I know you do, before others will value you. So if you let the self-care go, and again, I'm taking this advice as I'm saying it, other people will let go of valuing you, and that's not okay. So you've got to value yourself first and do the things that are most important to you. All in your life will benefit when you're happier because you've taken care of yourself. So don't think sacrificing you is going to get you anywhere, because it's just going to get you lower and lower in a more negative place than it will actually. You'll never get to that point where you've accomplished enough to take care of yourself. You've got to start taking care of yourself as a priority.
Our last question today is from Brenda, and she asks, how can you stay positive and motivated to job search when you face legitimate obstacles age discrimination? Obstacles such as age discrimination.
Okay. Okay, let's see. This is the sad part, okay? Here's what I learned on the age. I coach people of all ages. And so I was talking to a woman who's 50, which is not old, by the way. The older I get, 50 is not old. But she said the issue with age here, she says age and experience equal expensive, okay? So first off, you can stop taking it personally that because it's because you look old or because your hair is gray or whatever. I mean, fine, if you want to look young, what's really going on, okay? And this person said, wait a minute. So experience equals expensive, and they think it's not worth it to pay me this much. They think this experience isn't worth it. It's the real reason for the ageism. It's often, well, it could be because they think you might not have the energy for a particular job too. But you gotta look at that. You gotta look at the, you know, look at what age. What's the valuable component to this? Okay, what can I learn from this that's gonna help me? And to get the job that she wanted, okay, she was going to have to drop her salary. She was going to have to drop her salary by about, I think it was 15 to 20 grand. Now, this was a function of the marketplace, though, and if she did a search on salary.com or payscale.com for the range, that 15 to 20,000 less. You know, the market changed, right? We have this mindset that just because we've done something, we should keep going up. Well, that's great. It worked in the 50s, worked in the 60s, added years to your experience. You know, not just seniority. It's bias that says, are you keeping fresh with what's going on? So I think it's important to recognize your expectation had lots of competing job offers, and she ended up actually getting into the ideal job because she didn't want to stop working at 50. You know, she wanted to do more. She's got lots more to add. She knows she's not done. Negotiate your salary once you're there. It's not over. It's not like, oh, that's it. She needs a chance to actually show them what she can do. And now, put in the door, you know, you're not going to get that chance. So I would say try not to take it personally and say get behind why age is getting in your way, and even ask the people who you've interviewed with, or you know, network behind the scenes and talk to some people in the company. See if you can get the inside scoop on why your age is getting in the way. Chances are it's this experience equals expensive, which to me was very unlikely to be.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Maggie, for hosting this webinar, and thank you to all that attended villanova.edu for all networking events and future webinars. We really are bringing up more programs this upcoming year, so we really would love for you to be a part of them. It has been recorded, so it will be up on Villanova's website, on our website within the next week. But thank you again, everyone, and thank you again, Maggie.